Good morning, everyone. Okay. Uh, with this example, we have studied like how we can update the fields using a workflow action, field update action. And what we did was like we design a workflow where we make an automation where the position status to become closed, right? Now, let me first of all discuss something, then we are going to go with the next type. All right, so let me open this diagram. See, what we did in the last lecture was something like this. We created a workflow rule, but on the position object, right? We created a workflow rule on the position object. So we created a workflow rule on the position object. And what this workflow was doing, it was updating the field, one field called as status field, right? And it was updating a field status. Now this status field, this also belongs to the position object, right? And this is what we have done in the last lecture, right? With this workflow, what we have created. So as a time dependent action, one day after the milestone date has been over, what we were doing, we were updating a field. We were updating a field. Which field? Position status. What is the new value for this? It should become ideally closed. Now understand, this type of field update action, like if I ask you, this workflow rule was created on which object? So we can see that configure a workflow rule on position object. So if I now ask you, this workflow rule was created onto which object? You can answer me that this was created on position object. All right. Now, second question, if I ask you, what this workflow, I mean, just consider this one, the field update action. And I mean, right now, just skip this all other part. Let's concentrate on to the field update action only. So if I ask you on which object this workflow rule was created, you can tell me that this has been created onto position object. Very good. Now, second question, if I ask you what this workflow rule was doing, so you can tell me that this workflow is updating a field. It is performing a field update action. All right. What it is doing, it is performing a field update action. Now, third question, if I ask you what field or rather which field it is updating, so you can say that there is a status field. There is a status field of position object, which it is updating. So this is something like this, that you created a workflow on one of the object, could be position or could be anything. You created a workflow on this object, like position object, could be another object as well, could be an account, hiring manager, candidate, contact, whatever. Important here is to understand the concept, not the object. If we create a workflow rule, if we create a workflow rule on a particular object, if we create a workflow rule on a particular object, and it is performing a field update action, it is performing a field update action onto the same object. That means the field, like this field, it was updating this field, status. Status belongs to which object? Position object. So if a workflow created onto one object, if a workflow created onto one of the object, and if it is updating a field on the same object, listen this very carefully. If a workflow which is designed onto one object, which is created onto one object, onto an object, and then it is performing a field update action onto the same object. It is performing the field update action. There are 4 types of action: email alert, field update, assigning a task, outbound messages. So out of these 4 actions, the workflow is performing a field update action on the same object. So this type of field update action is called as same object field update action. Same object field update action, because you design the workflow on this object and this is updating a field of the same object. So this type of workflow, this type of field update action, we call this as a same object field update action. All right. Now there is one more type of this, something called as cross object field update actions. Cross object field, which is actually the second part of this. So you have to understand, as a part of field update action, you have to learn two things. Same object field update action, we already have seen this with the previous example, right? With the previous example, we have learned how to design a workflow on a certain object, which would perform the field update onto same object. All right, that we already have seen with the previous example. Now let's talk about the second type of this, cross object field update action. So what does it means by, first of all, what is the phenomenon of this? Let's understand the philosophy, and then we would going to learn. We'll actually set up this, right, with certain use cases. See, now in this case, in this example, what you're seeing right now, I have designed a workflow, but onto opportunity object. All right. Now, if I ask you on which object the workflow has been designed, on which object the workflow yeah. So if I ask you like on which object the workflow has been designed, so you can answer me that this is designed onto opportunity. What it is performing? What it is performing? Again, it is performing a field update action. But then this field update action, it is not doing onto opportunity. If it would perform this operation, if this field update action, if it is performed on opportunity, again, that becomes what? Same object field update action. But in this example, in this diagram, what we can see, the field update action, the field which is getting updated is one of the field of account, one of the field of account. So it is something like this. It is something, now we can summarize that if a workflow is designed on a certain different object, or maybe a workflow is designed onto one object, it is performing a field update action, but onto another object. It is performing a field update action, but on another object, not onto the same object. So if this type of field update action, if a workflow is performing a field update action where workflow is not updating the field on which it was being created, rather it is updating a field of a certain different object. Like you can see right now, the workflow is actually updating the field of account, not of the opportunity, although the workflow has been created onto what? Onto the opportunity. So if this is the operation, if this is the field update action, what you are seeing, this type of field update action is called as cross object field update action. Cross object field update action. So using a workflow, we can do same object field update action, where workflow created on which on one object is updating the field of same object. And we can also perform cross object field update action, what we are going to see in today's session. Cross object field update action, right? Let's now do, let's now take some examples for this. So whenever a workflow created on one object, but it is updating a field of some another object, it is not updating the field of same object, rather it is updating the field of some another object. It is updating the field on some another object. In that case, it is called as field update, cross object field update action. Now see, whenever using a workflow, you are performing a cross object field update action, there are actually two, not certain, there are two what to say, there are two rules for that, there are two prerequisites, there are two things what you have to see. If those conditions, there are two conditions, rather, condition is better word. So there are two conditions for this, and both of them should be satisfied. Now what is the first condition? The first condition is if you are performing a cross object field update action using workflows, cross object field update action can also be performed by using by using process builder and even by using the flows as well. All right. But we are talking what about? We're talking about, we are dealing about workflow. So in the workflow, particularly, there are two conditions for this. Although there is no condition in process builder, there is no condition in flows. There is again no conditions. But particularly in the workflows, there are two conditions. Whenever you perform a cross object field update action, the first condition is both the object, they must have a relationship, that to be master detail. That means they must have a master detail relationship. The two objects must be related to each other in master detail. If there is a lookup relationship, you cannot do cross object field update actions. If there is a lookup relationship, then you cannot go with the cross object field update action. That is the first condition. Second, we can only update fields of parent, and we have to create, I mean, the direction should always be child to parent. Child to parent means we have to create the process build, the workflow on child. We have to create the process workflow onto the child, and we have to update the field. Which field? Field of the parent. So the direction should always be what? Direction should always be child to parent. You are creating workflow on child. You are updating the field of parent. So your direction should always be from child to parent. You cannot do what I did. You cannot do what I did. Oh yes. You cannot do like, you cannot create the workflow on over here onto the parent over here, right? You cannot create workflow over here and you can update the fields of child. That is not allowed. With workflows, it is not. But with the process builder, this is possible. Process builder for the cross object field update action and the flows as well, they don't have any restriction. You can create the workflow. You can create a process builder. You can create a flow on child as well as parent. You can update the field on the parent. You can also update the fields of child. If there is a lookup relationship, then you can also do it. If there's a master detail relation, then also you can do it. If there is even no relationship, then in that case also you can do this. So that is merely flexible. That is merely flexible. But workflow particularly have certain restrictions. And because why? Because that's an outdated technology. That's an outdated technology. All right. So this is what you have to remember. Rather, it would be better if if you write it somewhere else. So whenever we are performing a cross object field update action, but using workflows, we have to keep two things in our mind. First, there must be a master detail relationship. And the second, we can update parent from the child only. So the direction should always be from the child to parent. You have to create your workflow rule on child object, and you can update the fields only of the parents, not of the child. Or maybe you cannot create a workflow on the parent and you can update the fields of child. This is not possible, right? So these are the two considerations whenever we are performing a cross object field update action, but using a workflow rule, right? Let's go further with this. Now, configure a workflow rule on opportunity object, and to copy the opportunity stage value into the associated accounts description field. Let me first of all describe you what is the use cases, and then we are going to solve it. So use case is the same that you see the diagram. Let me first of all come to the Salesforce and then we'll see this. See, if I go to the opportunity, and let me go with all opportunities. And for example, if I open this one, opportunity, pyramid emergency generators. Now see, this opportunity is having one account associated to this. You can see pyramid constructions, right? I'll open this account as well in a separate tab. This is that account. This is that account, which is having a related opportunity. You can see it in the related section, pyramid emergency generators. Now, over here, you can see that for this opportunity, there's a field called as stage. In the opportunity, there is a field called as stage. Right now, as you can see, the value of stage is prospecting. What we want, a kind of automation that whenever you do any changes in the opportunity, whenever you do any changes in the opportunity, it should bring the value of stage into description. Rather, it should copy whatever you see, if you see that there is a prospecting, the value of opportunity stage is prospecting, that prospecting should be written on the description field. Now, description field is a field of what? Description is a field of account. So this is something like I am asking you that whenever the opportunity stage value, is being changed, I wanted this value to be get copied into description field of account. So this, of course, is a cross-object field update action. All right. This, of course, is a cross-object field update action. So whenever you make any changes on the stage field of opportunity, or rather when you make any changes in the opportunity, the stage value should be get copied to the description. Whatever the stage value is, then that should be copied to the description field, of account. Now, this, of course, is a cross-object field update action. Now, whenever we do the cross-object field update action, there are two things that we just have studied. There are two conditions of doing this with the workflows. What are those? First, the relationship type must be a master detail relationship. Now, between account and opportunity, there is no master detail. Actually, there is lookup relationship. There is a lookup relationship. Between account and opportunity, there is a lookup relationship. But if you remember one thing, I have told you something special about this relationship. All right. Can any one of you please tell me that? Let me give you this command. You can, yeah, now you can unmute yourself. Can any one of you please find what is a special between account and opportunity? Yes.
Roll-up summary can be created.
Anything else?
It's a lookup relationship. It is.
Yeah. So it's a lookup relationship, Snehal. And yes, Shadab, you wanted to answer something? Sorry?
Yeah. Cascade deletion is.
Cascade deletion is also there. Exactly. Good. So between account and opportunity, we studied that there is certain specialty between this relationship. And that I told you never to forget this. Because there were 2 points on I told you that between account and opportunity, there is a cascade deletion. And the most important part of this, what I told you was account and opportunity is the only relationship where you can create a cross, you can create a roll-up summary. Although roll-up summary, if I wanted to create, again, the relationship type should always be what? Should always be a master detail. But that is the only lookup relationship. This is the only lookup relationship where you can create a roll-up summary. Between account and opportunity, Salesforce allow you to create roll-up summary. The rest, in all other cases, it must always be a master detail relationship, right? So because I mean, when we are doing a cross-object field update action, the relationship type must be a master detail. And now I'm talking between account and opportunity, although there is lookup, but the behavior is as good as a master detail. That is why one more feature, Salesforce allow you to have cross-object field update action using workflows over here. Although with process builder, this is again possible. With flows, again, this is possible. So this point is not that much impactable, that much important. Having a roll-up summary is more important because this is something which gives this relationship a more weightage. But yes, of course, there is one more point. I mean, if you wanted to bring this onto front, you can bring it in an interview that whenever we are doing a cross-object field update action, but using workflows, let's say, then there are two restrictions. The two object must be in master detail. But between account and opportunity, although we have a lookup relationship, still we can create a cross-object field update action we can perform. Like we can create roll-up summary, it is having cascade deletion. Now, because it is behaving like a master detail, Salesforce allow you to have a cross-object field update action over here. And that's why I have taken, see, I could take any example over here. I could take any example. Why I am taking precisely account and opportunity? Because you should understand this. Although I could take any object, like let's say hiring manager and position and candidate. If they were not being in master detail, I'll convert that. No problem. You also have learned how to convert the relationship from one type to another type. Right? So I could take that, but why particularly I have taken, because I wanted you to highlight one more thing. And now that's up to you to remember this. So what we are going to design, we would be creating an automation, a workflow on the opportunity in such a way that whenever this opportunity record would be getting created or maybe an updated. So created and updated. I'm covering both of the events over here. If a new record would be created, that time also the value of stage is getting copied to description. Other, if certain old record was being open and being edited, that time also will going to copy the stage value to the description. All right. So I'm keeping this open for both of them. I mean, created, and every time it is edited. And moreover, this is not a time dependent action, so we don't have to worry about that. All right. This has to be done immediately. So we are following immediate action. So what we are going to do, we would be creating one automation, one workflow on the opportunity, and we would design this in such a way that we would we would copy the value of stage into description of account. All right. So let's do that. So I would be going to like setup, and then I would be going to setup, build, create, and then workflows and approval. Let's go to the workflows. So these two we already had created, one on the lead, another on the position. Let me now create. Someone has reported that this button is not coming. Maybe in your group, somebody has reported. See, I'm not sure. I'm exactly not sure why it is not appearing with you. Is it happening, guys? Let me give you this to unmute yourself. Is this happening with everyone? I mean, did you get this button or not? Come on, tell me. Somebody in your group has reported that she is not getting this continuing the workflows.
Yes, sir. मुझे नहीं आ रहा.
काजल को और कोई है आपके इसमें? Is anybody else who is also not getting this continuing workflow rules? I will once see to this. I mean, why it is not coming, but Kajal, can you please do one thing? Just go to company profile and then into the company information. Just let me know what is your instances. All right. Please do this to me. Go to your company profile, and then in the instance, just see to this on which server your org has been created, because I need to check for the updates onto your org. In that case, I will also see, is there any setting related to this, which I don't think which is a possible solution, but I would also check that. Right. Please do this today. All right. So I'm creating a new rule continuing the workflow, and the object is opportunity. The object is opportunity. So I'm selecting the opportunity because I would be creating this on opportunity. And then next, give me the rule name as sync opportunity stage value to the account description. All right. In the description, I could elaborate. To copy the opportunity stage field into the source. Either here you can write this in a more elaborated way. All right. This I wanted in to cover both of the events. Whenever, as soon as a new record of opportunity would be created, although or maybe maybe an old record was getting updated. So in both of the cases, I wanted to cover this. So that's why I have selected. Now, as soon as you select this, it would prompt that for this particular criteria, you cannot go for the time dependent action. So we don't have that, right? We wanted this to be get covered with the immediately. And so we are going with the immediate action only. So we don't have to worry about this warning. Right. So now before prompting this, every time a rule condition is more important that we know. All right. So I have to do something over here. Add a rule condition, criteria are met. I could evaluate one condition. See, instead of taking the field, you could also design a formula, right? You could also design a formula. So I could design one formula over here. Let me see whether we have is change function is changed. Let me first of all insert this is changed. Now let me select the field of opportunity. stage. See, what I just did is like I have designed one formula over here. Is change stage, and this is my condition. What I wanted to check is like if the opportunity if the opportunity stage value is getting changed, if the opportunity stage value is getting changed, all right, then and then only fire this rule. See, there are two types of things. Understand, there are two types of things. You could, I mean, the first could be like, if anything, if any changes would occur over here, try to understand this. If any changes would occur, I mean, if this change, then also fire the rule. If this would change, amount value would change, then fire the rule. If expected revenue change, then fire the rule. Close date change, that then fires the rule. This is one thing. This is one thing. But you should try to think something out of the box. Please try to understand this. This is very important. This is very important. Yes. Understand. See, what we exactly wanted to do. Let's first talk about that. Let's first talk about this. What we wanted to do. We wanted that. We want actually what we want to copy whatever the value of stage is, right? We wanted to bring it to the description. I mean, if the stage value is prospecting, I wanted to see something like this, prospecting, right? I wanted to see something like this. I mean, this is the outcome what I wanted to see. This is the outcome what I wanted to see. All right. What we want, that the stage value of of the opportunity should be synced with the description field of account. Whatever you see, whatever you select in the stage, that should be reflected into description. This is what you want, right? This is what exactly you want. This is what you want. You wanted to sync the value of these two fields. Whatever the stage value, if you for example, you make any changes over here in the prospecting, I mean, you bring certain different values. Let me do that as well. So if for example, where is that? If I make, for example, if I make the stage value, is qualification, and I have saved this. Let me come back to this. Let me refresh it. So if I make this, the opportunity stage becomes qualification. All right. If this becomes qualification, so that should also be reflected over here. Like this. So this is every time you wanted this, every time you wanted this to get happen. Now, this is our main purpose. We wanted to sync these two fields, the value of stage. Every time, whenever this is changing, we wanted this to get copied. The same value should get copied to the description field of account. But now I ask you one question. If amount is changing, if there is any need to fire this automation? If amount is changing, stage is not changing. Stage is still the same value, the old value. If amount is changing, is any need to fire this automation? Do we wanted to do this? That every time the value should get copied? No. If the close date is changing, do we wanted to fire this automation? In that case, the stage should, is there any meaning to fire this automation when other than stage value is getting changed? Think about this. Whenever you are designing an automation, rules are saying created. And every time it is edited, then fire the automation. But you have to bring that automation beyond. You have to insert the functionalities more precisely. So if, for example, what the criteria now I have selected, created and every time it is edited. But in the formula, I'm doing certain specialization. If I am selecting this criteria, created and every time it is edited, what is going to be happen would be every time you make any changes, every time for any field, if you even make like you make changes in the type, any field you are changing, this automation would getting fired, right? This automation is getting fired, but we are thinking beyond that. I really don't wanted this to be get happen for every record, for every field. I particularly wanted, if you change the stage value, if you change the stage value of opportunity, then and then only, you know, I wanted this to be get copied to the description. If you make any another changes in the opportunity, we certainly would not require to fire this automation to copy the value of stage to description, because stage value has not been changed. Stage value has not been changed. And that is the reason, guys, I am going with this formula. I'm going with this formula. After designing the formula, always go and check the syntax. No errors found. So I have imposed one rule. For the rule, there are two things. You can check the value of certain fields, or you can design a formula. So that is what just I did. Before firing this rule, I am checking this formula. With this formula, I am checking is changed. Is changed. I mean, is the changes has happened? Is there any changes? Or to watch the stage name. Stage name. That stage name got changed. If it is changed, and then only I would require to formulate this. I would require to fire the action. Otherwise, no. So that is what I am checking over here. All right, is change. So this is my formula. Let me save and next. Is change stage name. If there is any changes in the stage name, then we are going to fire this rule, otherwise not. And we cannot have time dependent actions over here because the rule which I have selected is created and every time it is edited. So let's me design this workflow action. I'm going with the field update. All right, let me give this name as sync opportunity stage to the account description, of course. Yeah, you can give any name. Now you can update. See, you design this rule on opportunity. You can update the fields of all of the fields of opportunity has been listed out. If you are updating, you created this rule on opportunity, you are updating opportunity is the same object field update action. Or else you can select account. So now this becomes, the fields of accounts have been displayed over. This becomes cross object field update action because my rule is present onto opportunity. It is updating the field of account. This way, it becomes cross object field update action. So what do you wanted to update? I wanted to update description. I wanted to update description. Right? Description. So what, with a blank value or use a formula? I'll go with a formula. See, see here, if I directly give the field, if I directly give the stage field of opportunity, right, it would give an error. Let me show you that. I mean, what you wanted to bring in description, you wanted to bring the value of stage name. But if you check the syntax, it would give you an error. And why it is giving, let me show you that. Your stage name is a pick list. Stage name is a pick list where description is a text. You can go in opportunity in the account, you can check that description is basically a text. So the data type description is what? It's a text, long text area, LTA. So the data type of both of them are different, right? I mean, the stage is pick list and description is what? It's a text. Text to text directly copy kar sakte ho. Well, pick list to pick list. When the data type is same, you can directly copy. Otherwise, you'll have to take certain formula, help of certain formula. So for this, I would be using another formula called as text. What this formula would do? So it would take the value. I mean, it would take the value. Let me complete this. It would this text, it would take the value of stage name, whatever the current value of stage name is. Stage name is a pick list inside opportunity. Stage is a pick list. Whatever the current value you have selected, that is converted as a text. And once it has converted as a text, you can definitely give it to description, because description also is what? It's a text field. Whenever whenever you are doing synchronization, you are sending the values of one field to another field. Always remember the data type of both of them. The sender and the receiver, the source and the destination. Both of them should have the same data type. Their data type must always be the same. Otherwise, you cannot do the synchronization. If it is not, you have to convert it. So the stage was pick list, description was text. What I did, I converted the value of currently selected pick list into text. Now, once this has become text, I could send it to description. And now if I go and check the syntax, it would not give me any error, rather no syntactical errors, right? This is what you have to do and save. Now that's it. This is the must. Let me make it done and activate this. All right. Okay. Now the rule has activated. Now let's go to the opportunity. See, this is my account. All right. If I make you are in opportunities. See, I go to, for example, let me explain you in this way. Let me first of all. All right, so the description field of account is blank, as you can see. See, if I go to the related opportunity, which is this one, if I make any changes, if I make any changes, next step is to, for example, contact client. What I am updating this field next step. I am not updating stage. Now let me save this. My rule was fired in backend. It is checking that is change stage, क्या stage change हुई है? Answer is no. नहीं changes कहाँ हुए? Changes हुए next step field में. Stage field में कोई changes हुआ क्या? नहीं. तो it has checked and the rule because rule fire हुआ, उसने check किया कि क्या stage change हुई है. आपने एक formula बना रखा है rule condition में. उसे पता चला कि नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ है, तो उसने एक्शन फायर नहीं करा. एक्शन फायर नहीं किया तो आई कैन चेक इट. आई कैन गो एंड रिफ्रेश दिस एंड आई वुड फाइंड स्टिल माय डिस्क्रिप्शन इज व्हाट? ब्लैंक. ठीक है. नाउ लेट मी, दिस वाज नेगेटिव टेस्टिंग, लेट मी डू द पॉजिटिव टेस्टिंग. इफ आई मेक लाइक इट इज नीड एनालिसिस एंड इफ आई सेव इट एंड आई विल सेव इट, तो व्हेन आई अभी मेरा रूल फिर से फायर हुआ एंड इट हैज आस्क्ड वन क्वेश्चन, इज चेंज स्टेज, क्या स्टेज चेंज हुआ है? तो आंसर है ट्रू. यस, चेंज हुआ है. अच्छा, ट्रू हुआ है, तो ठीक है. लेट्स नाउ फायर द ऑटोमेशन. लेट्स नाउ फायर द एक्शन. So in the action, what you did, you have synchronized the values, right? There was again a formula which is taking the text of this need analysis and sending it to the description. Let me go back and refresh this. Now let's see what happened. Need analysis. See. So this would fire only and only when the opportunity's particular stage is getting updated, right? This type of automation is called as precision automation. This, what you have studied right now, is called as precision automation, and we always design this. We always design this whenever we wanted, based on certain field, if only they are being impacted. Whenever we wanted to impact only certain fields, whenever we want that if this particular change would happen, then and then only fire the automation. All right. Then we always design something called as precision automations. And this, what you just have studied, where even though the whole opportunity is getting updated, the rule will not get fired. Rule will only fire, only and only fire when this field is getting updated. Is change stage. If this would change, I would fire the action, otherwise not. So this type of action, this type of business automation, we call this as a precision automation. And in 90% of the cases, this is what we do in real time, right? Nobody would taught you up to this. they would finish this within created and updated, but they would not talk about the precision type of automation, which actually we do in real time. All right. So whenever you are designing an automation, don't design it on created and every time it is updated. There should be the criteria, but you again would have to check for something. If this would happen, I'll fire the action, otherwise not. All right. So go with this example by today and execute this in the same way. And tomorrow, I would rather start with assigning a new task. That is the last thing, but it would take time, maybe 2 lectures. Yes, you can now unmute yourself if you want to ask anything.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, my instance name is AP25.
25 ना, तो हो सकता है आपके इसमें अपडेट्स हो गई हैं, and with the recent update, with the spring, whatever, I mean, what is right now is going on. Winter 23. Can you also please check this? What is your addition? This winter 23 for developers. Please check this as well. But maybe Salesforce has stopped giving workflow from the next release. और हो सकता है कि अभी when the next release is, हो सकता है हमारे पास से भी ये disable हो जाएगा अभी. So I'll go with that status.salesforce.com. When the next release is coming, let me check that as well. Winter 23. All right, so in February 11, so spring 23 is being announced. Most probably, and with this addition, workflow would be removed from our org also. So I'm expecting this because this I know that Salesforce has started removing this. With few of the orgs, they are still use it, but for most of them, they don't see the workflow. I mean, you're having the option to see the workflow, but you don't have any option to create the new one. I'm not sure about editing the old one. That could be possible. I think you could update any workflow, but you cannot create new one. So maybe with this release, everybody else would face the same thing. Yeah, we would stop using the workflow. उसके बाद में फिर मैं next batch से पढ़ाना बंद कर दूंगा इसको. Anyways, ठीक है, that is not just an issue with you, हो सकता है. So yes. Next, any other question? All right, then. Thank you so much for joining.